So here at Life.Church, we have what we call Team Teach Weekend a couple of times a year. That's when Pastor Craig will spend about 10 minutes or so kicking off a message, and then he turns it over to a campus pastor to finish the rest of that message. During that weekend, it's a great time for the campus pastor to select a couple people on his or her team to do the 180 stage communication before the service. So Pastor Tim, I would love to hear your perspective. As you're developing communicators on your team, how do you know when they're ready to take the stage?
Yeah, so last year, Pastor Craig, we were at his house as campus pastors, and he told us that the 180 is the most important part of communication when it comes to the service.
No pressure, right?
No pressure, because it's not announcements. It's not a time for you to rattle off 3 things. It is a time to inspire your people to cast vision and to remind them of the mission that they get to be a part of. And so it is really important to select the right people to be able to do that part. And so it isn't one of those times where you throw up anybody and everybody who's available to do it.
Someone who's new to your team,
right.
Like that wouldn't be a great next step for them, right?
No. So what we do is we have a lot of different opportunities to practice communication. So you start to identify people, even in practice, are they someone who could potentially do it? And then you start to refine those skills, giving them more practice opportunities where it may be in front of a team development, or it may be a huddle for some volunteers. And so there's a progression that happens before they actually step on the stage.
So back up a little bit, what are some of those things that you would see in someone that might make you think they would be a great communicator or they are a developing communicator?
Great. So one of the things that we talk about when it comes to communicating is it effective? And how we determine that is, do the people know what you want them to know? Do they feel what you want them to feel? And are they doing what you want them to do? So know, feel, and do.
Because those aren't good enough, just one in and of themselves, right?
Right,
right. You want all 3. You want them to know, feel that emotion coming from that communicator, and then ultimately we're inspiring someone to action, correct?
Exactly right. So there's clarity on what you're asking them to know about, and then there's this emotional connection where they're inspired to do it, and then it's, what do we do? I'm ready, let's go do it. And so you have to be clear with the action step as well. And so even in the practice setting, if the people that you see potential in are able to accomplish that, that's great. So then for us, because we work within 180 seconds, we just make sure that they're able to refine it to a point to where they can do it within 180 seconds. And it's not going to take 3.5 minutes or 4 minutes or 5 minutes. And so that's kind of the 2 parts of it.
So tell me, for someone who hasn't communicated in 180 seconds, that's 3 minutes, give us some tips on what that is like. It's pretty hard to stay within that time boundary, correct?
It is tough. It is tough for sure, because you want people to be educated. You want them to know, but you also want to accomplish the other aspects of the feeling and the do. And so it takes a lot of practice. It takes a lot of experience to be able to do it. And the hardest part for me is to not get into a routine where every week, this is how I start it, this is how I end it, but to mix it up so it doesn't become white noise for people and they zone out. Because if they zone out, they'll miss what you're trying to talk about. And so just bringing authenticity to it and transparency to the stage communication is really helpful too.
So you have a leader. They're great at know, feel, do. What are some of the other positions to communicate at the campus location? Like, what are some great next steps if they're not ready for stage communication for them to go ahead and sharpen and develop that muscle?
Great. So on our weekend, we have a host team and life kids that are full of volunteers. So before every single service, these volunteers, they will huddle together and a team member will inspire them for their service that they're about to serve at. And so it's 5 minutes, it's not very long, but it's in that moment that they get to accomplish the know, feel, do before these people go and serve the church. And so that's probably the most clear example, I guess, of how people can practice and be ready for stage communication.
That's great. We hope these examples have been helpful for you as you develop young communicators on your team.